discover the incredible moment she revealed her hidden passion, transforming their lives forever. Emma stared blankly at the stack of dishes waiting to be scrubbed, each plate a reminder of her dreams slipping through her fingers like paint on a palette, once vibrant, now faded. The hustle and bustle of the diner surrounded her, a cacophony of clinking silverware and chatter, but within her, an oppressive silence reigned. At 34, she felt the inkling of regret gnawing at her. Memories of vibrant oil paints and endless canvases were overshadowed by the bills piling up at home. Each late shift stretched her thin, and every hour spent cleaning someone else's house diminished her self-worth. Jake was on his latest corporate grind, pursuing promotions with a relentless drive that left her feeling like a shadow in her own life. It was on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon that everything changed. As she refilled a customer's coffee, she bumped into Mrs. Collins, her art professor from years ago. The retired professor's vibrant presence filled the diner. Over steaming mugs in the corner booth, Mrs. Collins recounted her own struggles, spurring a forgotten fire within Emma. She felt alive again, a flicker of her former self pulsing beneath the mundane. That night, with the kids tucked into bed, Emma unburied her old paintbrushes from a dusty cupboard. Each stroke of color unleashed a rush of emotion, joy mingled with despair. The rhythmic motion felt cathartic, yet guilt seeped into her heart. Would neighbors judge her for painting while her home demanded her attention? Would Jake see this as another distraction, or worse, a neglect of family duties? The very thought made her stomach churn. She brushed a dark canvas with her fingers, that rebellion tugging at something deep inside her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the days melded into weeks, Emma's routine became a juggling act of paint and parenting. Her excitement clashed with the weight of chores and social expectations. More whispers curled behind her back, judgment embedded in their simple smiles as she chose to chase a passion they deemed frivolous. Each brushstroke felt like defiance, yet every glance toward her neglected housekeeping felt like failure. And then Jake faced immense pressure at work, financial strain creeping into conversations, transformed into an insidious silence that filled their home. Emma's exhibition loomed closer, and the thought of showcasing her artwork merged with the dread of Jake's face betraying disappointment. Money was tight, the risk felt monumental. How could she dare to place her dreams above their family's needs? When the night of the gallery opening arrived, Emma stood before her creations, her heart racing with a mix of hope and anxiety. She caught sight of the people gathered around her canvases, warm words flooding over her like the vibrant colors she painted with. Just then, Jake walked in, his expression a swirl of pride and frustration, every smile cast at Emma like a dagger to his worried heart. In that electrifying moment, everything teetered a balance between fulfillment and the crumbling walls of their carefully constructed lives. The weight of his unspoken dreams crushed her spirit, their shared love strained against the tension of languishing so many unsaid feelings. His phone buzzed unexpectedly, an ominous reminder of their reality. With every bit of newfound confidence Emma grasped at that moment, the threads of their relationship threatened to unravel further, leaving both questioning had the pursuit of dreams become their unlikeliest burden. The gallery opening had felt electric, but the aftermath was a mix of exhilaration and dread. In the days that followed, Emma found herself bouncing between moments of pride for her work and overwhelming anxiety about what it had cost them as a family. Late at night, when shadows swallowed the household, her thoughts spiraled through doubts, questioning if this dream was worth the turmoil. Jake hadn't mentioned the exhibition since that night, and Emma's attempts to discuss her paintings often ended with him distracted by phone calls or buried in work. It was as if each brushstroke had added distance between them, a chasm filled with unarticulated emotions. The support she craved felt like a distant fantasy, replaced by the remnants of tension that lurked in every room. One evening, as she found herself mixing colors, she noticed the empty canvas next to her. It taunted her, reflecting the void in her life where open communication used to thrive. Was this what pursuing passion felt like, a sting of isolation amid newfound creativity? The thought paralyzed her. Thoughts of her children, their innocent laughter echoing through the walls, should have given her solace, but it only added weight to her burden. Determined not to drown in doubt, Emma decided it was time to confront not only her own insecurities, but also Jake's lingering frustration. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart as she approached him one night after dinner. "We need to talk, Jake," she said, voice steadying. He looked up from his laptop, expressions masking annoyance and curiosity. "About what?" "I have a deadline." The words lodged like ice in her throat. "About us. About what happened at the gallery." She saw the shift in his demeanor, a fleeting moment of vulnerability behind his business armor. Jake sighed, closed his laptop, and leaned back in his chair. "You really enjoyed the night? Didn't tea you?" "I did, but I also felt you weren't present. I need to know how you really feel about my painting. We're in this together, yet there's a wall. I can't tear it down alone." His silence suggested the weight of unsaid words. She felt her heart race, daring to imagine that the conversation could bring relief. The air between them crackled, filled with what-ifs. "I'm proud of your work, Emma," he finally said, but the hesitation lingered. "It's just hard to watch you deviate from what we agreed." "Agreed? You mean the path of stability, of safety? I thought you'd understand that pursuing my passion doesn't mean abandoning my responsibilities. It's an integral part of me." The candor of her words startled him into silence again. Did he underestimate the depth of her commitment, not only as a mother and a wife, but as an individual? "I don't want us to drift," he said slowly, "but sometimes dreams conflict with reality, and it worries me. Are you sure this is what you want?" Emma felt a surge within her, igniting a fire she thought extinguished. "Yes, I have to believe that art can coexist with our life. I can be both. We can be more than just who we've settled into." As the conversation simmered with tension, Emma realized that she wasn't just fighting for her dream. She was growing, discovering strength she never knew existed. Her voice no longer trembled with insecurity. It rang with determination. But just as hope blossomed, a sharp influx of uncertainty stung her resolve. Was her ambition simply a distraction from deeper issues within their marriage? She needed to confront this reality just as much as she did her own fears around her choice, needing to understand how Jake truly felt before proceeding further in her artistic journey. Her heart pounded as she recognized that the time had come to delve deeper, not only into her art, but into the very fabric of their relationship. Realization hit her with renewed intensity. It was not just about painting, but about redefining their connection. Emma straightened her back, ready for the conversation that loomed. But as she opened her mouth to speak, the weight of the future hung heavily in the air, leaving her wondering, were they prepared to face the truth together, or was this a crossroads where dreams would either unite their futures or fracture them irreparably? The air hung thick with anticipation, wrapping around Emma like a heavy cloak as she deliberated over her next words. No longer willing to shy away from the vulnerabilities that had been festering between them, she knew this was her moment to push beyond the mundane safety net of their established routines. It was more than a discussion. It was a pivotal decision point that could redefine how they both viewed their lives and dreams. "Jake," she started, channeling every ounce of conviction she felt, "I need you to hear me, not just listen while your mind drifts off to deadlines. Art is my voice. It always has been." She paused, allowing the weight of her statement to settle in the silence they shared. His brow furrowed as he leaned forward, the expression on his face shifting to one of earnest curiosity, urging her to continue. At that moment, Emma felt the winding path of her desires surge within her. She could visualize how every color she mixed translated to the emotions swirling inside her. And now was the time to express those nuances plainly. I'm not asking you to abandon your aspirations for me. I'm asking you to support and understand that my aspirations are not separate from our life, they are part of it. I know being a mother and a partner means making sacrifices, but I cannot continue to ignore this calling. It feels like an extension of who I really am. Why had it taken her so long to articulate this? She didn't know, perhaps fear had silenced her for too long. The tension twisted at Jake's expression. He opened his mouth to speak, but closed it again, caught somewhere between acknowledgement and apprehension. Emma bore through the silence, her heart racing as she realized this could turn into an essential breakthrough or further alienation. Can we explore this together? Because I don't want to choose between being your wife and being a creator. It doesn't have to be either / or. Her voice cracked just slightly, revealing the vulnerability beneath her strong facade. He rubbed his hands together, discussing schedules and balance in tangible terms. Yet Emma sensed the emotional distance still lay heavily embedded. She pressed on. If we don't address this now, what will happen in 10 years when regret settles in? I don't want to resent you, nor do I want you to resent my choices. I want a partnership that allows for growth. A deep exhalation escaped him, and Emma felt momentarily buoyed by the sound. Had she actually pierced through his defenses? I'm scared, Emma, he admitted softly. What if it doesn't work? What if you put everything into your art, and we don't survive it? Her heart clenched at his words. The people she loved were all wrapped up in the outcome of her decisions, a weighty realization that stirred a new understanding of family and personal ambition within her. What if it does work, Jake? What if this fuels our relationship rather than fractures it? I want our children to see us passionately pursuing our dreams. ISNT that what we want for them alive, where they know we lived fully. A flicker of realization crossed over his features as she laid bare her hopes. She had never thought to confront their expectations more candidly, but a burdened truth hung in the air. Pursuing her passion could indeed inspire her children. The thought lingered long after the words left her lips. In that moment, a profound internal shift began to unfold within Emma. She finally began to understand that true artistry encompassed more than just paint on canvas. It required vulnerability in all forms of life, especially in relationships. Each layer of uncertainty peeled away, revealing glimpses of potential. Let's try it your way, Jake responded hesitantly. But you'll have to promise to communicate with me every step of the journey. A surge of warmth coursed through Emma at the willingness in his voice. Perhaps this was a new beginning, not just for her art, but for their collaboration as partners. As she took his hand, intertwining their paths once again, an inkling of hope emerged. This sliver of reconciliation felt like the baseline for something profound, yet the fear of how the world would receive her work crept back in. Was she ready for everything her passion might stir? With each deliberation forward, Emma sensed a hidden dimension of her artistry had awakened, urging her to embrace scrutiny along with creativity. The tension still lingered in her heart, but beneath that, excitement sparked a hidden flame she hadn't anticipated. But what lay on the horizon? This was only the beginning, and with newfound intentions came fresh challenges. Would her exploration of art not only reshape her identity, but provoke the insecurities she feared most? Emma looked out into her studio, the canvases whispering, waiting for her next brushstroke. The time had come to face her fears, but how far would her courage stretch before it wavered? The morning sun streamed through the studio windows, casting a warm glow on the blank canvases that awaited her touch. Emma stood with her back against the wall, arms crossed, contemplating the solitude she once craved. Now it felt charged with expectation. It was no longer just her creative space. It was a sanctuary for the aspirations she had laid bare to Jake. Each beam of light illuminated not just the external world, but the inner landscape of her ambitions, pulsing with newfound clarity. Yet, with this illuminating realization came a tug of uncertainty. The allure of potential success clashed with the fear of failure, lurking like shadows at the corners of her mind. Emma stepped away from the wall, the coldness of the surface contrasting with the heat of her racing thoughts. Could she transform those fears into an asset instead of a hindrance? She took a deep breath, allowing it to settle before she picked up her brush. The bristles were foreign in her grip, a symbol of the risks she was about to take. With each stroke, she could confront not only the canvas but her own doubts. The colors danced beneath her touch, a riot of emotions spilling forth as she processed the conversation with Jake. "Art is my voice," she recalled, the words echoing through her. The conviction in her declaration tinged her strokes with intent. This was her exploration, a promise to herself to delve deeper into what lay beneath the surface. Several hours passed, lost in the rhythm of creation, but she paused when a sense of impending clarity gripped her. What would she say to the world with her art? More importantly, how would she convey the emotions that tied her to her family and her dreams? Questions twisted in her mind like brushstrokes on canvas, reminding her of the duality of her existence. Finishing a preliminary piece, a swirling explosion of color and texture, she felt a surge of power. This wasn't merely a display of artistry. It was a manifestation of her conflict, a dialogue with her fears. Therein lay her hidden competence, the ability to engage vulnerability with vibrant expression. As she stepped back, a flicker of doubt surfaced. Would Jake truly understand what she was trying to convey? Would he recognize that this art reflected the intricate dance of their relationship and the evolution they were undertaking? An impending fear of being misunderstood gnawed at her resolve. With renewed purpose, Emma grabbed her phone, lighting up the screen with an idea. Perhaps sharing her progress with Jake would bridge that gap of emotional distance. A quick text. "I want to show you something tonight. It's important." A few seconds later, his reply came. "Can't wait." "What is it?" She hesitated. Part of her wanted to withhold, to keep this new phase of her artistic journey as her private sanctuary. But then she recalled the commitment they had made to communicate, to share. "I think it's a step toward our shared future," she typed back, feeling a burst of confidence as her thumb moved across the screen. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across her studio floor, Emma felt the gravity of what lay ahead. Navigating through her art was akin to navigating her identity, dynamic and ever-shifting. She needed to confront the reality that, without confronting her fears, she could not truly progress. That evening, when Jake entered, she sensed the hesitation that mirrored her own. Could he perceive the transformation that she was beginning to embrace? "Look," she said, gesturing toward the canvas. "This reflects everything I've been feeling, the chaos, the passion, the fear of failure. And I want you to see it because I want you to be part of this journey." Jake's expression softened, and she envisioned a space where their fears could reside but not dominate. Could they foster an environment of mutual growth? She watched as he took in the vibrant palette, his brow furrowing as emotion visibly washed over him. But just as the conversation deepened, she felt an unsettling pang. What if her art brought discomfort rather than connection? The implications of revealing herself were vast, and uncertainty loomed large. Was she ready to redefine her trajectory and unveil not just her art, but the depths of her own heart? Emma inhaled, tension coiling in her stomach as Jake's scrutiny felt like a spotlight. "Is this truly you?" he finally asked, an undercurrent of trepidation rushing through her. That question hung in the air, a catalyst for the next moment. Emma realized it was a crossroads, and she could either shrink away into habitual silence or bravely answer, exposing her core in a way she had never dared before. "Perhaps it's a glimpse," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But it's only the beginning." As they stood together, navigating the delicate threshold of vulnerability, a truth stirred within Emma. The fear of judgment could either shackle her or fuel her fire. And it was at that point that she recognized one thing: a leap was necessary. a full dive into the depths of both artistry and partnership. Would they traverse that uncharted territory together? Or would her art reveal fissures she hadn't foreseen? Emma's heart raced, anticipation mingling with dread, as she understood this was just the beginning of a much larger dialogue. But in that uncertainty lay the spark to unearth everything she longed to express. What awaited them both as she uncovered more of her soul? With her paintbrush poised above the vibrant canvas, the world outside faded, leaving only the blank space for possibility both within her artwork and her relationship. The stakes transformed into an exhilarating cry for authenticity. What awaited her when she fully embraced her truth? The air was thick with anticipation as Emma stood before the canvas, an arm's length from her burgeoning reality. Each breath felt charged, electrified by the stakes of this moment. There was no returning to her previous state of creative isolation. She had stepped into a realm where vulnerability and connection intertwined, and it frightened her. Jake's gaze weighed heavily on her, simmering with questions. What did she truly want to communicate beyond the chaos of colors and shapes? With each of Jake's contemplative expressions, Emma felt the warmth of encouragement mingled with the chill of apprehension. This was not merely about sharing art. It was a reflection of them, a confrontation of their fears and hopes intertwined. "Do you feel it?" she ventured, the words escaping before she could second-guess them. "This painting isn't just a representation of my feelings. It's about us, our journey. I wanted to capture how intertwined our dreams are." Jake nodded, absorbing her sincerity like a sponge to water, but his eyes narrowed slightly as if he sought an underlying truth that eluded him. "But what happens if your art leads us in different directions? What if the journey I see leads somewhere I can't follow?" His question struck her like a sharp brushstroke across the canvas. It was honest, and it forced her to confront the uncomfortable reality of their partnership. A surge of determination propelled her forward. "Then we'll navigate it together. I want us to engage with the uncertainties, feel the weight of the process. Isn't that what we've both been afraid of? The fear of losing each other?" His brow eased, and for a moment, the stiffness in the room began to dissolve. But Emma knew it wasn't enough to express it. She needed to demonstrate that vulnerability was not a barrier, but a bridge to deeper intimacy. With deliberate movements, she stepped closer to her canvas, touching the thick strokes as if they could offer her the guidance she sought. "This," she said, indicating the chaos of colors, "is a representation of chaos and order, the balance we both struggle to find. The fear of failure is present, but so is the desire to create something meaningful." The flood of her emotions felt tangible, a palpable energy between them that coursed with intensity. In that moment, shaping her words was just as crucial as shaping the art before her. "I don't want us to avoid our fears. I want us to explore them together. Let us face what scares us. What if we found strength in that discomfort?" Jake's surprise mirrored the still echoes of her thoughts. She was throwing herself into the unknown, allowing her vulnerability to shine through her words. But was he ready to embrace it? Silence hung in the air, thick and anticipatory. Emma took a step back, glancing at Jake, searching for a sign, any sign that he understood her intent. His face softened, an expression of contemplation stretching across his features. "Maybe your art has already begun to transform what I fear," he admitted quietly, uncertainty still weaving through his voice. "It shows me aspects of us we might have buried." A flicker of hope ignited within her as his words resonated. Was this the clarity she sought, a shared discovery of both individual fears and collective aspirations? What if we documented that transformation? Emma proposed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. What if I created a series that captures our journey, each piece exploring different facets of our growth, fears, and triumphs? Jake's eyes sparkled at her suggestion, and for a brief moment, Emma saw the breadth of their potential unfolding like a canopy of color waiting to be filled in. They could both evolve through this, could embrace what lay ahead together. Yet, as she contemplated the idea, a simultaneous weight settled on her chest. Although this signified engagement, it unveiled something deeper, the risk of revealing their flaws to one another. What if their exploration uncovered stark realities that threatened to fracture their bond? "Are you sure?" Jake asked, a frown creasing his brow. "What if this journey leads us to places we're not prepared for, to truths we might not want to face?" Emma inhaled deeply. His doubts were shadows lurking in the corners of her mind. "We want to know if we don't try," she replied, firming her resolve even as the trembling uncertainty wove through her. "The journey could reshape us, but we have to be brave enough to step into it together." Silence enveloped them as they held space for mutual contemplation, the implications of her proposal heavy yet transformative. Would they dare take this leap, stitching together their individual vulnerabilities to create a tapestry of shared growth? With Jake taking her hand, she felt warmth spreading through her, an omen of connection, but also a whisper of trepidation about what lay ahead. Just as the evening sun melted into twilight, Emma sensed that the darkness ahead held both potential light and shadows. And so, with brush in hand and heart open, Emma staked her claim to this new adventure. The unveiling of her true self, both on canvas and in partnership, was a risk she was willing to embrace. As they stood at the precipice of exploration, the question echoed between them: would they define their paths together, or would their art reveal more than they had bargained for? With every stroke of her brush, a deeper truth beckoned. What realities awaited her in the layers of paint, the layers of her own judgment? As uncertainty swirled around her, one thing crystallized: the commitment to navigate through vulnerability would shape the contours of both her art and her relationship in ways she had yet to comprehend. What would the next stroke reveal? The next morning arrived with a deceptive calm, the sun bathing the studio in warm, golden light that felt both inviting and intimidating. Emma stood in front of her canvas, brushes arrayed like soldiers eager for battle. The previous night's conversation lingered in the air, compelling her to confront both the expectations she felt and the fears that bubbled beneath the surface. The sight of the empty canvas felt like the expanse of an unfamiliar road, stretching endlessly into possibilities. For weeks, she had been shy about expressing her vision, masking her hesitation with sporadic bursts of color that lacked conviction. But now, emboldened by her commitment to Jake and the desire to document their transformation, she could not afford to waver. As she squeezed out vibrant hues and blended them on her palette, a realization struck her: the act of creation was a personal narrative, a thread weaving her identity, experiences, and aspirations into a cohesive whole. She wanted her paintings to reflect that journey, to echo the truth of her evolution. But what truths would she dare to uncover? Her mind wandered to the depths of her art school experience, where she felt the thrill of possibility alongside crippling self-doubt. Each critique had felt like a test of her worth, and the weight of judgment had nearly convinced her that her vision was invalid. Yet now, standing here with Jake's faith bolstering her, Emma questioned whether her past had been less of a barrier and more of a teacher. With each stroke of liquid color on the canvas, she tucked away remnants of doubt. For the first time, she permitted herself to get lost in the moment, in the dance of paint and emotion. As reds mingled with blues and greens rolled into yellows, she felt a sense of liberation unfurling within her, a renewed fire igniting passions she hadn't fully recognized until now. What surprised her most was the instinctual way her hand moved, guided by an urgency to reflect not only her own growth, but also the complexities of her connection with Jake. Each form she painted felt like a dialogue between them, as if the brush was a bridge spanning the gaps of understanding that regularly loomed between partners in creativity. And yet, the thought of showcasing this journey, of inviting anyone, especially Jake, into her most intimate spaces, frightened her. What if he saw her work and felt there were parts of her he could not follow? Would her art lay bare the vulnerabilities she had only begun to confront? As she stood back to admire her work, a pang of anxiety twisted in her stomach. Would this showcase the truth she wanted to reveal, or merely expose her fears? The deeper she delved into her palette, the louder the voice of self-doubt echoed. Do I really want to go there? She murmured to the canvas, the admission shaky and raw. In the quiet space, she pondered her habits of sidestepping the rawness of her experiences, routines she needed to unlearn. Each hesitation in her strokes that day represented a facet of her avoidance of conflict, a habit that was timeless but no longer served her. With the first layer almost complete, she hesitated before adding another swirl of texture, a bold decision to commit to being seen, to open herself to the risk of authenticity, and to capture not just beauty but also discord. This potential fracture of her craft mirrored her emotional journey with Jake, weaving their paths together. Realizing that standing still was a choice in itself, she collected her courage and infused the canvas with the chaotic yet beautiful energy of her struggle. She instinctively reached for the black paint, contrasting sharply with the vibrancy surrounding it. As the starkness intersected with the colors, a new sense of clarity emerged. It was in the juxtaposition of light and dark that the truest forms of beauty were often born. Emerging from her creative trance, Emma breathed in the intoxicating scent of turpentine, contemplating how this act of creation echoed a deeper rhythm within her. It was one she had long suppressed, but could no longer ignore. Yet, with commitment came fear, and as Jake entered the studio, light reflecting off the edges of his silhouette, Emma felt her chest tighten. Would he recognize the shift in her approach? Would he embrace the core transformation of both her art and herself? His gaze met the canvas, and for a moment, the silence was pregnant with unspoken questions. Emma, this is incredible, he finally said, sincerity grounding his words. You've captured something profound here. His affirmation was like a lifeline, but hidden beneath it were flickers of fear of what deeper layers he might not yet see. Fear of exposing parts of herself she had long hidden. The intersection of their fears would lead to confrontation, and as Emma wrestled with her growing transparency, the question echoed louder than ever: how much of herself was she truly ready to reveal, and would it bring them closer or pull them apart? As she stood at the threshold of openness, one instinct drove her forward. Art was not merely an escape. It could illuminate the hidden territories of her heart. The moment for confrontation had come. Would Jake's acknowledgement act as an anchor, or would it steer them into uncharted waters of vulnerability? What lay ahead could transform their realities forever. The air thickened with anticipation as Emma felt the weight of Jake's gaze upon her. The moment seemed suspended in time, testing her resolve and daring her to breach the surface of their unspoken fears. His affirmation echoed inside her, an invitation, but also a challenge. How much of her true self could she afford to expose without risking the delicate balance they had cultivated? Thank you, she replied, her voice steady even as her heart raced. I wanted to show something real, something deeper. The words escaped her, imbued with a vulnerability that surprised even her. It felt as if she were standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into an abyss of uncertainty, fully aware of the potential hurt, but compelled by an equally potent desire for authenticity. Real? This is you, Emma. It feels alive. His focus remained on the canvas, yet she sensed his intellectual curiosity shifting toward her. I want to know what it means to you. The question hung in the air, potent and raw. Did she have the clarity to articulate her intentions? Did she even fully understand them? As her fingers traced the edges of the painting, she began to reflect. Each color embodied fragments of her journey, her fears, her successes, and the shadows that occasionally crept into her consciousness. I've avoided letting myself be seen for so long, she confessed, daring to venture deeper. Afraid that if I really showed up, others might consider me unworthy. Jake turned to her, his eyes alight with understanding that pushed against her walls. But you fought to get to where you are now. Isn't that worth showing? His words resonated in the layers of her consciousness. Did she equate her journey with worthiness? Was her growth not an act of courage in itself, deserving of recognition? This perspective was a radical departure from the self-critical thoughts that often wormed their way into her mind. Emma took a breath, memories flooding her of nights spent second-guessing every step she took, worrying that one misstep on her path toward enlightenment would expose her as a fraud. Yet standing here, with Jake's clarity urging her on, she recognized an opportunity to redefine that narrative. For so long, influenced by society's expectations, she had painted happiest moments, the light without acknowledging shadows. She also realized that confronting the darker aspects of her identity could be a way to connect with others who felt the same anguish. Art was a reflection of her truth, and embracing that truth would spark a dialogue both within herself and with the world around her. A tide of determination washed over her as she moved back toward the canvas. I want my work to tell the whole story. The chaos, the joy, the fear, it's all part of me. But I'm terrified. The admission was a personal revelation, and she felt unshackled by her honesty. The vulnerability she feared transformed into a source of strength as she poured herself into her work once more, every brushstroke blending her fears and hopes into a vivid representation of growth. Jake stepped closer, a comforting presence as he took in the unfolding transformation of her art and spirit. You don't have to be afraid of the chaos, Emma. You've been climbing mountains to get here. It's time to let it show. His encouragement ripped through the remnants of self-doubt that held her captive. The connection between them became a lifeline, binding their individual narratives into a shared experience. Each layer of paint she applied felt like shedding old skin, striving to embrace a new self founded on truth rather than pretense. Yet as she navigated this uncharted territory, the tension lingering within her stirred again. Would her newfound courage bring them closer, or would it unearth deeper fissures? The thought of being examined so closely was both intoxicating and terrifying, igniting her desire to be understood while prompting her to consider the risks involved. "Are you ready to dive deeper, Jake?" she asked softly, the words trembling on her lips. The invitation was reciprocal, demanding engagement. With the complexities of both their beings, silence enveloped them, a precipice of possibilities awaiting their next move. The answer would determine not only the trajectory of their relationship, but the very fabric of her future as an artist. Would he rise to meet her honesty, or would it push them into opposing corners of vulnerability? There it was, the moment crystallized in time, one that could ignite profound transformation or dissolve into misunderstanding. As the colors melded on the canvas, a new chapter awaited, ripe with potential yet tangled in uncertainty. And in the pulse of that quiet anticipation, Emma knew one thing. The moment for genuine revelation had come, and it was hers to seize. Would she be able to balance the emotional weight on that canvas, or would it shatter under the pressure of honesty? With a steadying breath, Emma stepped back from the canvas to gather her racing thoughts. The vibrant strokes of paint reflected not just her artistic evolution. They mirrored the tangled web of emotions now threading through her heart and mind. An overwhelming desire flickered within her, igniting a spark of defiance against the self-doubt that had haunted her for so long. "Dive deeper," she echoed in her mind, the words trembling with potential. What did it truly mean to plunge into the depths of vulnerability, to expose her inner workings and take that leap of faith? It was as if she stood at a precipice, contemplating the leap into a chasm of unknowns while holding onto the remnants of her past fears. Clarity washed over her in waves, prompting her to consider that figuring out how to share her truth was part of her journey as an artist. Will it really matter? She mused. Would unveiling her fears and imperfections resonate with others? Or would it alienate her from those who looked up to the polished, curated version of herself she had woven for so long? Yet the thought of hiding felt suffocating. What if her fragility could inspire those around her? In that moment of introspection, she realized something essential. Her evolution as an artist hinged on her willingness to confront the truths she'd kept hidden. She needed to confront both the raw elements residing in her work and the person she was too frightened to fully embrace. "Let it show," she whispered to herself again, echoing Jake's words, absorbing their potency. With renewed focus, she dipped her brush once more, the bristles gliding over the canvas as she poured herself into what she desired to reveal. The colors deepened, each stroke flowing like the words she desperately wanted to share with Jake. Her art became an extension of her heart, each layer a glimpse of courage manifested on the surface. But as she sank deeper into this dialogue with her canvas, an unsettling realization settled over her. What if this moment of creative freedom was fleeting? Could she even maintain this level of honesty in the face of potential rejection? The fear of disconnection seeped back in. The thought of risking what she had with Jake was terrifying. Her hand stilled, brush hovering above the canvas. Emotions swirled within her like the colors she had combined, each representing fears of vulnerability, loss, and the unknown. What if he doesn't understand? She thought, echoing the doubts she wished to escape. And yet, a seed of determination took root in that uncertainty. They had been pushed into this moment together. It was a journey neither of them could nor should avoid. Emma felt a pull toward the unknown, the opportunity for authenticity that would seize both their hearts with unfiltered truth. The chaos she feared would not only define her art, but could also forge a deeper bond between them. "Jake," she called softly, her voice tinged with both trepidation and hope. She turned to him, meeting his gaze with fierce intent. "I want to share everything with you, my fears, my struggles, my artistry. But I need to know if you're willing to face that with me." In his eyes, she searched for a glimmer of understanding, a nod of recognition that he too was ready for the depths of this journey. As silence enveloped them once again, the stakes felt impossibly high. Would his willingness to journey alongside her solidify the budding connection they had forged, or would it lead them to bruised egos and shattered expectations? Amidst the vibrant chaos of colors, Emma stood at a pivotal crossroads. And as the weight of uncertainty rested heavily on her shoulders, she prepared herself for the answers that lay ahead. Would her revelation reinforce intimacy, or would it reveal deeper fissures in their burgeoning relationship? The potential of this moment weighed on her, the outcome poised to shift the trajectory of both their lives. Whatever lay beyond that precipice would reshape not just her art, but her identity as both an artist and a person. Time hung in the air, pregnant with possibilities, as Emma leaned closer to Jake, ready to explore the depths of her hidden passions, knowing full well that the moment of truth was not merely incremental, but could change everything forever. Emma's breath quickened as she met Jake's gaze, a whirlwind of emotions forming a storm in her chest. The weight of her earlier thoughts battled against the possibility of newfound freedom, the freedom to share herself without barriers. She could see it all unfold before her, the exhilaration stemming from revealing her vulnerabilities and the dread that came with risking everything she had built up. Jake's expression held uncertainty. It was a familiar look, a reflection of her inner turmoil. As she stood before him, she realized that the quest to share her art could only echo true if she first revealed the artist herself. A voice deep within her urged, "You can't hide from this. Not now." So, she took a step forward, grounding herself in the moment. "All right," she began, her voice coming out steadier than she felt inside. "What if we had a conversation about our vulnerabilities? What if we used this moment to peel back the layers that make us us?" Each word was deliberate, drawn from the depths of her soul, crafted to invite him in rather than push him away. Jake shifted on his feet, his brows knitting together. "You mean like really share? The raw parts?" His tone held an edge of disbelief, but also curiosity, an invitation she desperately needed. "Yes, I believe it's time. I want to challenge myself and maybe challenge you too." Her heart raced at the implication of their shared exploration of vulnerability, where neither would emerge unscathed, yet transformed. His lips curled slightly, an encouraging gesture that spurred her on. But what if it doesn't go as planned? He asked, the hesitation lingering in the air. It doesn't have to be perfect, she replied. It just needs to be real. Emma's resolve strengthened as she felt the tension of their uncertainties intertwining, creating an intoxicating blend of anticipation and fear. She knew that whatever they shared could either build them up or tear them apart. But that was the essence of intimacy, the risk of exposure mingled with the chance of growth. With a deep breath, Emma turned back to her canvas, her body a conduit, channeling everything she felt into each stroke. She began to talk, each word flowing into the vibrant colors, creating a tapestry of emotions laid bare. I've always worried that my voice wasn't enough, that revealing my fears would shatter the illusion of strength I have to maintain. Jake stepped closer, eyes fixed on the evolving masterpiece, contemplating her revelation. I've often felt the same way, like vulnerability would make me weak. But when I open up, it seems to make connection even stronger. He shared his own struggles, how pressure and expectations wore heavy on his shoulders. With every shared glimmer of truth, they peeled back the protective layers of their personas. In that moment, as the lines between artist and art blurred, she felt herself shedding the weight of their pretense. As the last details emerged on the canvas, a realization struck her. The colors danced not just with the strokes of her brush, but also with the heartbeat of their honesty. It was the first step toward a new kind of connection, one built not on the flawless impressions presented to the world, but on the beautifully flawed, visceral experiences that bound them as creators. But as the room chilled and the flickering light dimmed, a sense of foreboding loomed. Was enough? Would this courageous declaration of self expose her to ridicule? Or would it open up pathways to something extraordinary? Emma pulled back, surveying their shared space. Jake seemed lost in thought, his expression unreadable. The silence that followed was heavy, each moment stretching with unspoken implications. The stakes had elevated, and she understood instinctively the challenge they had embarked upon was only beginning. Whispers of uncertainty flickered in her mind again, but this time they were intertwined with hope and eagerness. They had breached a threshold together, yet the true test lay ahead. Was her truth enough to deepen their connection, or would it unravel everything? With apprehension knotting her stomach, she braced herself for the answer, realizing that the real journey was just starting. Emma stood in her studio, the vibrant chaos of color surrounding her like a protective cocoon, each brushstroke echoing the vulnerability she had just dared to express. After the intense conversation with Jake, she felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear coursing through her, an ebb and flow of anticipation, a reminder of how far she had come from the person who once shrank from expressing her true self. As she stepped back from the canvas, seeing it come alive with the raw emotion that had spilled forth, she felt a compelling urge to share this experience. Art was her voice, and the painting was a manifestation of both her and Jake's vulnerabilities laid bare. Each color represented the duality of their struggles and triumphs, and with this expression, she felt empowered. Jake watched her, his eyes filled with an intensity that spoke volumes. Emma could sense the shift between them, the palpable connection that began to flicker to life with every revelation they exchanged. No longer were they two individuals trapped in a maze of unspoken fears. Instead, they were collaborators in a shared narrative, striving to bridge the gaps of misunderstanding that once threatened to divide them. Do you see it? She finally broke the silence, her heart pounding as she gestured toward the painting that was now a tapestry of their confessions. This is about embracing the chaos and the beauty that comes with it. Every misstep, every doubt, it's all part of the journey, just like us. Jake nodded slowly, his brows furrowing in contemplation. It's raw, Emma, he admitted, his voice resonating with sincerity. This isn't just a painting, it's an invitation into your mind. It feels real, and it makes me realize that I've kept my own fears bottled up as well. Her breath hitched as Jake took a step closer to the canvas, studying it as though he were gazing into the depths of her soul. In that moment, she recognized a profound truth. Their artistic exploration was not merely about the art itself, but rather a reflection of their intertwined lives. What if we continued this journey? She proposed, her confidence rising as clarity shimmered at the edges of her thoughts. What if we used my art to confront our individual stories while exploring our shared dreams? It doesn't just have to be about me. We could document this evolution together. His expression softened, and Emma sensed that they were standing on the precipice of a new, beginning of venture that combined her artistry with his corporate insight. I think that could be something incredible, but it will require both of us to lay bare our truths, he responded, his voice steady yet laced with vulnerability. It's not just about the art. It's the commitment to engage in the discomfort of honesty. Emma felt her heart swell. Here they were, ready to forge a path filled with not only creative discovery, but also a deeper understanding of each other. She realized how far she had come from a place of isolation and self-doubt to a burgeoning confidence that allowed her to confront her fears head-on, both as an artist and a partner. With the collaboration taking shape, they began to brainstorm themes and ideas transformation, fear, love, and growth, all while breathing life into their individual struggles and aspirations. The studio buzzed with ideas, each suggestion igniting a spark within her that propelled the vision forward. Days passed, and the canvases filled quickly with vibrant expressions of chaos, each one embodying both Emma's and Jake's contributions. They exchanged thoughts about every brushstroke, reinforcing that their art was not a solitary endeavor, but a joint commitment to navigating vulnerability and sharing their stories. As the first exhibition of their collaborative work approached, Emma felt exhilaration burning in her chest. They had tackled uncomfortable truths, confronted fears head-on, and emerged not just as individual artists, but as partners breathing life into a shared vision. On the night of the exhibition, as people surrounded their pieces, Emma reveled in the warmth of acceptance radiating from the crowd. Observers delved into their art, captivated by the courageous honesty that resonated from each canvas. Glancing at Jake, she saw the same pride that reflected in her own heart. The culmination of their efforts proved to be an immense achievement. Not only had they exposed the depths of their artistry, but they had also carved a renewed partnership rooted in open communication, understanding, and vulnerability. As the evening unfolded with laughter and conversations, every compliment and meaningful exchange brought Emma a deep sense of fulfillment, realizing the perfect amalgamation of their individual journeys. They had transformed from a couple grappling with expectations into creatives sharing their truths through art. And in that moment, she achieved more than just an artistic goal. She conquered the doubts that once tethered her, proving to herself that authenticity held unparalleled power. What began as a solitary struggle had blossomed into something radiant, defining her not only as an artist, but as a resilient and fulfilled individual, ready to embrace the future alongside her partner. Now, as they stood hand in hand amidst the vibrant canvases of their creation, Emma felt solid confidence coursing through her veins. They had achieved something profound, and that was only the beginning of a journey that promised growth, passion, and deeper connection. This was not just a momentary triumph, but solid proof that the pursuit of one's authentic self could inspire and uplift others, forming the foundation of a life lived fully. So here is the call to action. You need to subscribe now to join Emma and Jake on their inspiring journey. Leave a like now to show your support and amplify their story to more dreamers like you. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about their remarkable journey and how they inspired you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this empowering conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Your engagement can spark the same transformation in someone else.